Hello and welcome along to TropX Live, Episode 3, live from TropX Studios here in Mackay Street in Mackay. Wonderful to have you all along. It is a great day to have a podcast plus video. I'm here with Carissa Morgan. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Excellent, wonderful to have you here. Broadcast news hound, director of Christee Morgan videography and TropX producer extraordinaire. It's multiple award winner actually producing for TropX, so it's great to have you here. We've got a very, very special guest today. He's a legend of the Mackay business community, a brilliant leader, responsible for many monumental happenings in Mackay. John Glanville, JG himself.
Benno, how are you? I wondered who you were talking about for a minute.
I'm going to give you one of my laughs for that. No, it's very, very true. Owner of Auto Corner for over 21 years, chairman of the Cutters for 8 years. A massive reason we've got the stadium in Mackay. A great mentor to me over the years, a TropX advocate. We were going through some figures before. We actually made 717 television commercials for you in our time.
Is that right? That's frightening.
It is.
You actually do owe me a beer or two then, I suspect, but anyway.
Well, I reckon. Well, I'll shout you hot walk after this if you can. Vic, we'll get back to that. We've got so much to talk about. Vicki Smith, Concept Consulting. Vicki the Turbo Smith. Great friend of ours. She could talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. Can actually out-talk me. But she's a marketing guru and does a lot of high-level comms in Mackay. And it's great to have you aboard. Welcome to the show.
Thank you again, Benjamin Wayne Bishop, the first.
The first. I am Benjamin, which is the first. Benno, as they call me. I'm the owner of TropX. And I actually love advertising. I really do. I still live for it. They say if you have a job you love, you never work a day in your life, but I don't think I'd work real hard no matter what job I had, so there's another one. I was going to be an optometrist, but I couldn't see a future in it. Anyway, we're going to talk today. We'll go to our first clip. We've got television advertising and owned content. We've got we'll go back in time a bit here, JG himself. If we look over at the screen.
What's going on?
We're getting ready for the big April Fool's sale.
It's the big April fuel sale. Now guys, I've got this secret deal, but I only want you to use it if you really need to. Guys, I've got this. What are you smiling at? You're not in the shop.
We're not in the shop. Lucky you.
But your ear sticks out. Did you get it, Kim? Looking around, where?
Okay.
Football players, I can't see the back of my head. There you go. Tell me you've got orders on all these cars.
Don't worry, boss. We'll fix it.
You better fix it. Hey, John,
Yes, John.
I want to be a good guy too.
TVs and laptops are the way to go.
Men, we're good guys.
That's good. Now 3, 2, 1.
Men, we're good guys.
That'll do.
Only at the big April fuel sale.
The April fuel sale. That's a deal.
Well, almost anything.
I'll do anything.
Well, almost anything. Well, almost anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
fantastic.
God,
Brings
that's-
back some memories.
That's a trip down memory lane, isn't it?
It is. And John, one of the things we want to talk about, and it's super important, and you're one of the best in the region for it. At the moment, we're talking a lot about owned content and content you create yourself to push product or to develop something. Now, that's successful in the motor industry. A number of brands, big national brands that always had national marketing campaigns, but you found creating your own local content to push your own personal brand and sell cars worked. How did all that start?
My background was with the Zups Group in Brisbane before I moved to Mackay. That was from 82 to 91 or something like that. And Big John Zupp was well known. Younger people watching this will say who, but John's still around actually, but he's not in business anymore. And he did his own any old iron ads, come in and trade in anything, get cash back with John Zupp. And he was always on the TV in Brisbane. And when I got up here, what I did notice in '93 was that it was fairly anonymous, most of the businesses. Certainly in the car industry, and that's no disrespect to the guys that were around.
Pushing product first before themselves.
Yeah, there was plenty of car ads on, but there was no personality in the car ads. And the only personality that I can clearly recall was John Carroll from Retrovision in those days, used to face his own ads.
Very prolifically, a lot of ads, yeah.
Other than that, nobody did. So I decided to do that. And I've got to say that there's a price to pay for that, like your own.
Yep.
In one way, it's good in that I suppose people recognise you, but that's not so good if you're out on the piss at night. So it's sort of in a town like this, it has its repercussions, and even on your family, on your wife and your kids, because they go to school. Oh, you're so and so's.
Well, you become a public figure.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a bit of a price to pay for it, but it's not insurmountable. But I think it worked, and I think it gave our brand more impact than just the national ads, which are about the product.
Absolutely, and I remember acutely from producing a lot of the commercials that a lot of the time you knew at the market trend, if National, for example, was doing Camrys, but you knew, come end of financial year, you're going to sell Land Cruisers and sell four-wheel drives. You had the ability then to change, flip the script. Is that what used to happen?
That's right. Well, the manufacturers, quite understandably, have got their own agenda. Doesn't necessarily match the agenda of the individual dealer.
Yep.
So you let them go and push the Camry or whatever else, but the reality is the Camry market in Mackay was a lot smaller than the Hilux and Land Cruiser market.
Yep.
So, you could sit there and say, well, I'm going to tip all my money into trying to sell Camrys, knowing that market is this size and you might sell one or two more, or you push it into the product that you sell volumes of.
Simple as that. And Vic, when you worked in Brisbane in the comm space and with some big companies, tell us about what you found when you returned to Mackay, how the landscape had shifted, or the landscape shift in advertising. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was hugely different to come home. I worked with big national brands in Brisbane as, in the marketing office, creating campaigns that, John would have had pushed upon him. To come home and work in an agency on the other side of the desk, small businesses, it was a big shift for me in mindset, and I was actually a bit lost for a while, particularly with digital content, digital space really starting to come into play. How on earth do we help local businesses that have so many less zeros in their budget? And I put in a call to a colleague who, has gone on to become quite a prolific e-commerce guru in the country, and he was working for a huge national chain at the time, and said to me, Vic, you guys have got the upper hand. We are trying to create content that localises us in Mackay. We're trying to create that all over the country. So we as local businesses actually, they're chasing us because we can put forward, fishing in Mackay. That content goes hand in hand for Tackle World. Despite being a franchise, they can, like John, make the choice to create content that's specifically related to here. BCF, the likes of those guys have to do it for Mackay and 600 other places across the country, and it's just not as genuine. It's not as authentic.
It's true, and Carissa, one of your massive goals you've kicked in the last few years in the producing space is taking some of these national style concepts or modern large agency concepts, and then reshaping them with the local aesthetic and the local feel. Have you found that there's no new ideas sometimes when it comes to a new wave of style?
Yeah, absolutely not. And I think the situation with the COVID funding and products that came out of that period, there was a lot of government funding being thrown around to tourism bodies and to industry bodies to sort of support businesses that might have had a fall down, like tourism, for example. So we saw, I would probably call it a trend to in this space was to transport the viewer. So everyone went to what they were calling soundscape, and so they would play the wave sound or the car driving down the dirt road, and everyone was doing that. It's sort of exactly what you said. No idea is a new idea, and sort of just keeping on top of those trends to make sure that locally we're relevant to what nationally they're doing.
And it was really cool, but it also was a little bit of a flash in the pan because they massive campaign, East Coast, travel at home, stay at home, and they did all the listen to the ocean rumbling and the naturescapes. But as we were talking about the other day, the actual tourism video itself, the concepts haven't really changed since the 1950s. Nice shots of the place, and I think looking back at some of JG's and the Auto Corner things there was some really novel concepts that were actually pretty off the wall. The April Fool sale or the April Fuel sale, and
The Hangover is one I remember from my childhood.
hangover sale.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, most of those did come out of my head, which shows you what a scary place it is to be in. But the one that you may have forgotten about, Nifty. Nifty was a campaign.
No interest finance.
No interest finance for 3 years. And my son Adam, who's now a pilot and has just finished flying the Prime Minister around and what have you, he said to me one day, "Dad, you know that Nifty campaign?" I said, "Yeah, mate." He said, "That stands for no interest finance for 3 years, doesn't it?" And I said, "Does now, mate."
Doesn't it? There's a rim shot for you. No, well, that worked really well. And I traditionally, I remember myself that, you know, how the months were and you had great strategy in place. And Karen Kroll, who'll give a shout out to, she was a great a marketer and a really hard worker, and I really enjoyed working on those campaigns. April was traditionally a terrible month in the motor industry. So having something where you got the free tank of fuel, or $1,000 worth of fuel, was it?
No, it was
Can't-
$1,000. It was
$1,000 fuel voucher. Was one of those things that really can stimulate sales. And did you find, were your campaigns based on inquiry generating and then let the salespeople do the work?
Oh, that's always the way. There's plenty of people that would come in off an ad like that and say, "Well, I don't really care about the free fuel," or we might say, "Look, to do that deal, we can't do that as well as the free fuel. So make your decision, and we can do one or the other." But you know, it's really about getting people in the door. It's the experience that they have at the business is still ultimately what decides whether somebody's going to do business with you or not. But you've got to get face to face with them in the first place. So advertising to me was always about getting people in.
Simple as that.
Yeah, and then hopefully your training and your experience and your processes and your culture of your organisation then give you a better opportunity to turn that into a sale. Whereas if they're not talking to you in the first place, then obviously, mind you, I don't know that my brother Tony, who's in a couple of those April Fuel videos, would be too excited at being played again. But all the staff, they all got involved with it. Hey, they were good. They were good.
They really did, and I loved the culture in the place, and we were there so much, you know, over that sort of 7 or 8 year period, maybe 9 year period that you're, you know, considered sort of part of the family, and it was, we always had fun, and but mind you, what we must comment on, and Carissa can go into this a little bit too on the social side with posting and how things work. You still always had a very substantial amount of product and price straight corporate ad.
Oh yeah.
And do you think that's still one of those fundamentals that you can't leave?
Oh yeah, you've got to have balance in it. I mean, the quirkiness of the content was to try and attract somebody to at least look at your ad to start with, but you still got to have something in there that's of interest to them. So you know, it's no use having a funny, quirky ad that doesn't give them anything to.
Doesn't do anything. It doesn't work. It's simple as that.
So it's the quirkiness attracts the attention to the ad, but then you've got to have some content in there that has some appeal. So whether that's free fuel or no interest or whatever else, or specific product at a price, then that's got to be coupled to it, I think.
And Vic and Riss, one thing that I'm noticing is I don't really understand it all that well between the story side of Facebook, pardon me, and your Instagram doing a normal post, where Instagram, you know, has that sort of, you know, let's make it flashy, aesthetically pleasing, try and draw them in that way. Facebook, my Facebook posts, I always try and have an aesthetic to them because I, you know, obviously cameraman and like that sort of thing. But how is the story working? What is it? Because it's gone in a day. Is it a something brought to, you know, combat Instagram? Now they sort of own the both.
Look, I think it's just the way we consume content has changed and is just changing so fast. It's gone as the vertical scroll. So we were, you know, vertical scroll, we talked a lot about thumb stop. It's about being visually, you know, attractive to someone. Is there some entertainment value in that for me to stop? And now we've moved to the top of the screen, and it's kind of like we tap and we swipe, you know. It's a bit Tinder based, swipe left, swipe right. But you kind of, it's changed again, and that just continues to evolve. And the thing with it is the pace of change. And that's sometimes what we find holds people back, is that all of a sudden we've just got a head around using video content because that's what the algorithm wants me to do. And next minute I've got to go to using these story things at the top. And so it's just keeping up with that pace of change around how we consume the content. It harks back a bit to the conversation last week, the week before, that, you know, we're subservient to social media. If they want us to, you know, push content through stories, then we've got to go with that. We don't really have a choice. So it is really comes down to that user experience, which, you know, in the day with television commercials, the entertainment value in John's ads had people sit and stay and not get up and make a cup of tea and come back. And it's a little bit the same. You know, there's entertainment value, there's education, you know, there's engagement, there's a few of those other pieces that, you know, that are still there. The principles are still the same. It's how we as users consume the content that's really changed.
Cool. And speaking of content, we'll go to the clip of the week. This was produced by Carissa. It's Christee Hollard, the Critty. I nearly said the wrong thing, so I call her Critter. Talk us through this, Riss.
So what we're going with here is that sort of high-paced fitness kind of videography. So it's all handheld video, Steadicam sort of stuff. We've got, you can see all of the reframing is left in, all of the refocusing is left in. So it's almost a raw kind of look. And a big shout out to Christy because she's about to compete in the CrossFit Opens next week. And has given me some stats here on her. Currently 2020 number 6 in the world for women's CrossFit. And she needs to finish in the top 10% for the CrossFit Open to make it into the finals after that. So she's doing great things and a great Mackay athlete. So it was just so much fun.
Great clip.
So much fun to do that with her and really test her a little bit, actually. Come on, Christee, let's do some handstands. Let's do some...
It's a great clip, and it's got a real national feel, and she looks great, and she's an, again, faster athlete, you know, and that they had a pretty cool style guide, like we say, to follow, which you achieved, and that also added your own sort of flavour and a real twist to it. I really love it, so well done.
Thank you.
And all the best, Critty. Hope you do well at the Nationals. Good, we've got Cutters this week, trial 2 against the Townsville Blackhawks. Make your way down.
That'll be a test.
It will be. Yeah, they're probably the toughest in the league, the Blackhawks. So we'll see how they go. You should come to our corporate box, John, if you're keen.
I'm away this weekend, but I would love to start going to more games. I've told Stevie Dowden that I'll be down there a bit more this year. But the Blackhawks, when they came on the scene, obviously the whole nature of the dispersal of the seconds in Cowboys, for want of a better terminology, changed, because when I was the chairman and we won the competition, we had a couple of players that helped us out, as of Jason Tomalola.
Yeah, I heard him before.
Michael
Morgan or something. Yeah.
Curtis Rona. These guys, and all of a sudden the Blackhawks said, hey, we're here, and all of a sudden these guys jumped the fence when they were in the seconds, and we got further down the line, the pecking order.
Yep.
So I don't know whether that's still the case with them, to be fair, but whether they, I think they're supposed to now allocate them geographically as to where they're from and things like that. But anyway.
Well, one quick thing I want to touch on is it's one, and I think of you all the time, and not because I am actually in the toilet, but one of your inventions or designs at the stadium,
yes.
you're solely responsible for, I believe, based upon probably, was it the Regatta that you saw it?
Yeah, the Regatta Hotel. The toilets at the stadium are my doing, and I mean, Greg Sutherland, bless his soul, is the field is named after him. He's now got a bridge named after him. When I cark it, they can name the stadium gents toilets the Glanville Pissatoriums or something like that. That's probably about as high up the ladder of naming things I'll get. But yeah, it made sense to me because they had the toilets originally designed with individual porcelain urinals facing the road. And you could fit, 6 blokes in there or 8 blokes in there at a time. And I said, you're going to have a line up out there at half time. I said, turn around the other way, turn it into a stainless steel trough. Bloke's okay with that, at the footy.
Yep.
And put a two-way glass. And the architect actually burst out laughing. I said, I'm serious.
I mean it, yeah.
And I said, mate, if you do that, they don't have to wait till half time. They can go and have a leak. And I've got to confess that I've actually been down at the stadium on a really cold winter's windy night. And sometimes I've gone in there to watch a bit of the footy when I'm not actually busting to go to the toilet.
I've been there a few times and can't believe how cold the water is at the bottom of the urinal. Anyway, moving right along. I think also big day at Brothers. We give a shout out to Peter Keogh Memorial Shield, legend of Mackay Rugby League. Peter Keogh, absolutely lovely man, lovely family. You can there's football all day, Wanderers and Brothers, and then the all-time clash, legendary Brothers versus Souths A grade kicks off at 7:30. And there's also going to be a really good band there. This bloke that I know.
Live this Saturday night at
they'll be
Leprechaun
playing.
Park. Enjoy a massive day of rugby league at the Peter Keogh Shield, then rock on late into the night.
old footage
Roller
there,
Camp
Ben.
live this Saturday night at Leprechaun Park. Proudly supporting Mackay Brothers Football Club. Be there or regret it for the rest of your life.
That's just my personal interest to go into that commercial. I might have learned something of you, JG, over the years, I
I
reckon.
got to tell you, as long as you don't start taking your shirt off when you play, mate, I'm okay.
No, not anymore. That was in the Channel 7 studios in about 1997, I think. It was just, well, that's what we used to get up to. We're very lucky to have the use of that gear. Anyway, we'll pretty much wrap it up. Thanks very much, John. It was a real pleasure to have you in, and
welcome.
have you in as a regular, hopefully, throughout the year, just to talk on all things media and advertising. Absolute legend of the game, and very prolific in really pushing things, and it's great to still see you have an interest and know what's going on. Vicki, always wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Most welcome.
Carissa Morgan, as I say, she's got more balls in the air this week with some big things happening. Helicopter shoot coming up at about a week's time.
Yes.
Over the Whitsundays.
Unfortunately, the cyclone threw that one back a bit, but that's all right. We'll get there eventually. So
Yeah, great things, and some economic development stuff in the works around Collinsville and Bowen. So yeah, wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks very much for coming. Stay tuned to Tropical Exposure Live. Episode 4 will be next week. We've got a very, very, very special guest coming in next Thursday who we'll announce on our page. We'll see you, and here's the outro music. Stay with us. We'll see you soon. Okay. Thanks, JG.
It's all right.